Hey, and welcome to the Zuffa LLC Strikeforce conference call. Today's conference is being recorded. At this time, for opening remarks and introductions, I'd like to turn the conference over to Mr. Ryan Grab. Please go ahead.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Strikeforce and M1 Global present Fedor versus Henderson media conference call. Strikeforce and M1 Global present Fedor versus Henderson takes place on Saturday, July 30th from Sears Center Arena in Hoffman Estates, Illinois, just outside of Chicago. Tickets are still available, and the action will be broadcast on Showtime at 10 p.m. Eastern and Pacific. Today on the call, we're joined by Russian heavyweight and former Pride champ Fedor Emelianenko. He'll also be joined by his manager, Steve Bash. We're also joined by his opponent on July 30th in the main event, and also former Pride champ and Olympic wrestler Dan Henderson. Also joining us on the call today and making her second title defense, Strikeforce Women's Bantamweight champion Marloes Coenen, as well as her opponent, Chicago #1 contender Miesha Tate. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Strikeforce CEO Scott Coker, who will make opening remarks.
Thanks, Ryan. I'd like to thank the media for attending today's call. I look forward to next Saturday's fight card, which arguably could be considered the best top to bottom fight card in the history of Strikeforce. So we have a great fight card for you guys from top to bottom. And with Fedor and Dan, thank you for taking this fight. You guys are two of the greatest fighters in the history of mixed martial arts, and these guys are legends in the sport. And I'd like to thank Showtime for making this fight possible. I'd like to welcome Marloes versus Miesha. And as Ryan stated, this fight card will be aired live on Showtime, 10 p.m. Eastern, next Saturday. So I urge everybody to come on down to the arena and tune in on Showtime. So back to you, Ryan.
All right, this time we're going to open up for questions from the participants.
And at this time, if you would like to ask a question, please press star 1 on your touch-tone phone. Keep in mind you may withdraw yourself from the question queue at any time by pressing the pound key. Once again, to ask a question, please press star 1 on your touch-tone phone. And we'll take our first question from the side of Franklin McNeil with ESPN.com. Please go ahead.
Thank you. My question is for Fedor. I'd like to know how would a possible win or win over Dan Henderson, who's also a legend in the sport, have significant meaning to you, and why?
I don't know if we have Fedor on the line, guys.
Okay, well, I'll hold off and come back on.
And we'll take our next question from the side of Stephen Morocco with MMAJunkie.com. Please go ahead.
Can everybody hear me? Dan?
Yes, Steve, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I guess I wanted to ask Dan about how he feels about his decision-making process in not bulking up at all for this fight, to come in, as you said before, at 206 pounds. If you could talk a little bit about the decision-making process behind that.
Well, I don't believe that was a decision at all. I mean, it's tough for me to gain weight, and I did plenty of weightlifting for this and plenty of eating, so I don't know what else I'm supposed to do. And on that note, I'm not going to, feel outmatched or small in there. I'm planning on, going out there and not fighting right through the middle of his power and lifting his weight around, but at the same time, being able to move him around.
Okay, great. Thanks. My other questions are for Fedor, so I think I'll get back in the queue.
And we'll take our next question from Sergio Non with USA Today. Please go ahead.
I had a question for Dan, but first I want to ask Scott just a couple of housekeeping things. Is Daniel Cormier official yet for September 10th?
Oh, yes, that is correct.
Oh, okay. And just one other question related to that then. There's been some back and forth about whether or not, I guess it should have been delayed to October. I mean, why not push the GP semifinals back to October?
Yeah, the issue really, Sergio, is that September 10th was, the TV date that we were allotted for the tournament, and that's the day we have to go on. And unfortunately, Alistair has an injury, and he can't compete. But if you'd like to have a conversation, after this call about that, I'm more than happy to talk to you about it.
Okay, sure. And for Dan, I believe you were in Matt Lindland's corner when you fought Fedor back in 2007. I'm wondering if you saw anything in that fight that you might be able to take advantage of in this one.
Well, I guess now I get caught on bottom in an armbar. Fedor's, I've seen him fight plenty of times and watch video on him, so I can take most of everything from that. He's dangerous. Whenever he's in shape, out of shape, doesn't matter. He's still real dangerous, and I just need to be careful out there and implement my game plan.
Okay. Is Fedor back on the line or no?
Федя, это Слава, ты на линии? Федя.
Okay, I guess
I'm told he is on the line.
Okay.
But he's not answering, so.
Okay, well...
he might be in queue somewhere if somebody can try to patch him through.
All right, well, I'll hold off for now then and let someone else jump in. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll take our next question from the side of Penny Buffington with MMA Today. Please go ahead.
So, I'd like to go to Miesha. Miesha, this was right before UFC announced their purchase of Strikeforce. We had an interview with you at MMA Today show, and said, in your opinion, Dana White is ignorant when it comes to female fights. Can you elaborate more on your thoughts on that? And then also go into, do you feel added pressure, not only with your fight, that you're trying to win the belt, but you're also trying to, say, impress Dana White to prove to him that females do belong in the UFC?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, in saying that Dana's ignorant, I don't mean it as an insult. I just mean I feel like he's not informed. Therefore he doesn't know enough about women's MMA to really make a judgment call about it at this point. And I feel like with the purchase of Strikeforce, he's going to be paying more closely attention to it. So with that in the back of my mind, it's not really added pressure. I always hate that because it just feels like that has a negative connotation to it. To me, it's really an extra motivation. I feel like it's exciting because now I'm going to have that opportunity to say, hey, Dana, you know what? This is what women's MMA is all about. This is what you've been missing out in the UFC. And, I just hope that Marloes and myself go out there and put on a very impressive performance.
Thank you, Miesha. Appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to the fight.
Thanks, Penny.
Do we have Fedor online? Fedor?
Федя, ты на линии? Doesn't sound like it.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we're working on connecting Fedor. So at this time we do have Dan, Marloes, and Miesha. So as soon as we have Fedor on the line, we will let you know.
Well, Dan, since he's not on the line, it's a good time for you to still. What exactly should Fedor fear most about you?
I'm sorry. What was the question?
The question was, since he's not listening right now, what should Fedor fear most about you?
I guess my size, huh?
Your what? Size?
My size. No, I don't know. I'm just, I don't know if he fears me at all. He probably shouldn't if he's in there, wanting to win. I think we both know that we're both dangerous and need to be careful out there, but I'm not afraid of him, and I'm pretty sure he's probably not afraid of me.
Yeah, I'm definitely.
And we'll take our next question from the side of Ron Kruk with Inside MMA. Please go ahead.
Morning, everyone. I guess if Fedor's not online, let's start with Dan. Hey, Dan, have you watched Fedor's last two fights against Silva and Verdum? And if so, what did you take away from his performance, if anything?
Yeah, I watched both of those, and you know, I felt he seemed like he got against Verdum. He got a little cocky with you know, his submission defense, thinking he wouldn't get submitted, but you know, and everybody can get caught, I guess. And
how about Silva?
With Silva, you know, I think he was a little bit out of shape, and the size definitely got to him. You know, Silva just hung out on top of him and didn't let him move that whole second round. So, you know, I think, like I said, no matter if he's in shape or out of shape, he's still real dangerous.
Is he more dangerous coming in off of 2 losses, or do you think you have him at a good time?
Well, I think, you know, anybody that has their back to the wall and coming off of 2 losses like that is definitely more dangerous. But, you know, I think he's still going to be trying to hit me with the same punches he would have if he would have won his last 2 fights.
Great, thank you. Is Scott still on the line?
Yeah, speaking.
Hey, Scott, quick question. You know, for so long, Fedor's image in the world of MMA was that he was this indestructible, really just this almost robot type of fighter that just was destroying opponents. Can you talk about how his image has changed, if at all, with the recent losses?
You know, I think that every fighter in MMA at some point, you know, has some defeats, and you know, Fedor's record of having no losses in over a 10-year period, that's quite an amazing feat. I would think in any sport to be undefeated for 10 years. So, you know, to me, does it diminish where he is today? I don't think so, because he's still a legend of the sport. Dan's a legend of the sport. And you're talking about 2 guys that, like, you know, stated earlier, are arguably, not arguably, but these guys are not just the best, you know, top 10 pound for fighters in their weight class, but also, you know, pound for pound of all time. You know, these guys are ranked in the top 10. So, you know, you're talking about 2 legends of the sport, and with Fedor, hey, losses are going to happen, Ron. You know how this business goes, and so to me, it just happened later. And you know, he fought some really good guys. I mean, Fabricio, you know, when he caught him, you know, everybody knows Fabricio's an amazing jiu-jitsu master, and Bigfoot Silva, like Dan said, is a giant, and so you know, he fought guys that were really good. So you can't take that away from the other guys, but I think it diminishes Fedor. His legacy, no, I don't. I think that he's going to come out here hungry, and he's going to, you know, come looking for Dan, and I know Dan's going to come looking for Fedor. I predict this fight will go right to the center of the cage from round 1, and I think it's going to be an amazing fight.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.
We'll go next to the side of Leif Knutson with Fox Minneapolis. Please go ahead.
Hi, this is Leif Knutson. Dan, you and Fedor fought in Pride for years, and they would like to mix and match weight classes. Has there ever been an offer, or at least a preliminary search into you being paired against him in the past?
No, it's never been offered to me before.
Okay, who's got the better right hand?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out in a little over a week.
Can't wait to see it. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks.
And we'll go next to the site of Ted Gruber with Chicago Now. Please go ahead.
Operator?
Yes.
Hi,
This is Steve Bash. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Hi, Miesha. The last fight was August 13th of last year, and you were originally supposed to fight on March 5th, but a knee injury forced you out of the fight. Do you think there will be any cage rest, and how has the knee healed up?
Before we go to that, Steve, are you on the line? Steve Bash?
Yeah, this is Steve Bash, operator. There's a lady by the name of Irina who keeps calling in the number and trying to get through with Fedor, but the operator's not letting her in because she's not Fedor. She's with him right now, and she keeps calling, trying to get into the call.
Okay, I will go ahead and check on that. If you could just... All right.
Operator, if you can pull Steve into a private conference so we can get to Ted's question, that'd be great.
Yes, not a problem. Just one moment.
Okay, back to it. Basically, I think ring rust is more of a mentality than anything. And like I said, I think if you that was part of the question. I'm sorry, right? The ring rust.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The cage rust.
Yep. Basically, I think it's a mentality. You know, if you let it get to you, if you let you think, oh my gosh, it's been a year since I've competed, and you add that pressure on yourself, then yeah, you know, it's going to get to you. But to me, it's just I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to it. And you know, it hasn't been a year since I've fought. You know, I do that on a daily basis with men in the gym. So for me, it's just another, you know, basically getting back in there, and it's exciting for me. I'll be happy and joyful to do it.
And regarding your knee injury, has that knee fully healed?
Oh, that was the other question. I'm sorry. Yeah, my knee, you know, it took me between 4 and 6 weeks to get through this physical therapy, and then I had to do a little bit to get back to 100% as far as gaining some lost muscle in my leg. But, you know, I did exactly what I was supposed to do. A lot of ice, rest, elevation, all that fun stuff. And then, you know, back up on my 2 feet, and I've been working really hard. I had my eyes on Marloes for this last year, so, you know, it's really exciting that it's finally getting close to go time.
Thank you, Miesha.
And we'll go next to the side of Neil Davidson with the Canadian Press. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Dan, my question is for you. You've had lots of big fights in your career, but fighting somebody with the name and the tradition of Fedor, does that get the juices going a little bit more, or is it just another name on the list?
No, I don't think Fedor is just another man. It definitely excites me for the opportunity to be able to fight him, and yeah, I'm ready to go and just waiting to get in there at this point.
And thank you. And Scott, can I ask you, has it been established that whether the winner of the Kaufman-Carmouche fight will win the winner of Miesha Marloes?
You know, that has not been determined yet, but we're definitely going to take, keep our eye on that fight for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
And we'll go next to the site of Stephen Lieberman with Culver City Observer. Please go ahead.
Question is for Dan. Just a little bit about your past history and background. Were you always interested in fighting as a young boy, and at what point in your life did you realize that you wanted to fight professionally?
I don't know. I guess probably 2 weeks before my first fight is when I decided or thought, you know, that I was going to maybe try fighting. You know, it's when it got offered to me. Before that, I'd seen it on TV and, you know, thought that, I don't know, maybe I'd like to do that, but I don't know. I don't want to fight the big 300-pounders that were in there back then, or 400-pounders, and you know, MMA wasn't around when I was a kid. It was after 2 Olympic teams that I decided to give it a try.
So who was did anybody influence you as you were growing up to pursue fighting? Do you have anybody in your life that encouraged you, or is it just something that you felt inside that you wanted to do for a living at some point?
No, fighting wasn't around when I was growing up, so it was, or MMA wasn't anyway. I was just a wrestler, and you know, was just focused on trying to make Olympic teams and continue my wrestling career, and then had a call to you know, maybe get an MMA fight, and 2 weeks later I fought.
So that was more intriguing to you than just being a wrestler?
No, I just needed the money. I didn't really give a whole lot of thought about, you know, if it'd be fun or not or whatever. I just thought I'd try it, and I was just a wrestler at that point.
Thanks so much.
Uh-huh.
And ladies and gentlemen, it does appear we do have Fedor on the line.
Федя, это Слава. Ты на линии?
And we'll go...
Федор. Да.
Привет, Федь.
Слава, слышишь меня?
Да, я слышу. Okay, do we want to start with Franklin McNeil's question first? I've got it in queue.
Certainly. We'll go next to the side of Franklin McNeil with ESPN.com. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, guys. And I'll repeat my question. I want to ask Fedor, does a fight or win over Dan Henderson, another legend in the sport, have significant meaning to him, and why?
Федор, если ты выиграешь у Dan Henderson, который тоже легенда в спорте, как ты, что это значит для тебя, для твою карьеру, если это более важная победа, чем другие бойцы?
Ну, конечно, для меня будет это очень важно. Потому как Дон Хендерсон уже выступает давным-давно, он чемпионом, являлся в разных версиях. Вот. И для меня это будет много значить.
Well, of course, it would be a very important victory. Dan Henderson's been a fighter for a very long time and been a champion in many different organizations. And for me, it would be it's very important. It would mean a lot to me.
And my second question is, how important is it for Fedor to be heavyweight champion again, and why would that be significant, or why would it not be significant for him?
Как важно тебе стать опять чемпион мира, скажем, по тяжелый вес? Если это тебе важно или это тебе не важно, и чего?
Ну, конечно, важно. Я думаю, что здесь не так много роли играет во время боя. Конечно, это важно. Весовая категория. Но, на мой взгляд, главное это мастерство.
Последний час.
На мой взгляд, самое главное это мастерство. Весовая категория это уже второстепенно. Вот.
Well, of course, it's important. I mean, it's definitely something that I'd like to achieve again. For me, what's most important is to be a master in the sport and to be at the top of my game. So it is important.
Okay, thank you very much.
And we'll take our next question from the side of Ron Kroc with Inside MMA. Please go ahead.
Question for Fedor. Fedor, following your back-to-back losses, have you done anything differently in your training or preparation for Dan Henderson?
Федор, после два подряд поражения, которые ты имел, ты что-то поменял в свою тренировку и готовку для Dan Henderson?
Нет, все по-прежнему. Готовимся, как и раньше.
No, everything's just as before. We prepare and train just like we have the same before.
Is there anything specifically he's working on for Hendo?
Ты работаешь на что-то специфичное для Хендерсона? Какие-то детали специфичные?
Специфично нет. Работаем над всем. И боремся, и боксируем. То есть специфических этих нет какой-либо подготовки.
Nothing specifically. I mean, we train as we have before. We're working on our wrestling, grappling, and stand-up boxing, just as we have before.
Final question: win or lose, how long would Fedor like to keep fighting?
Выиграть или проиграть этот бой? Как долго ты собираешься продолжать драться?
Что как долго?
Как долго ты ожидаешь, что ты будешь продолжать выступать?
Я не знаю, как долго. Сейчас отобьемся, и дальше будет видно.
I don't know. It's that's God's will. We'll fight our next fight, and after that, we'll see.
Thanks, guys.
And we'll go next to the site of George Booley with Fight Magazine. Please go ahead.
Hi, it's George Booley from Scrap Fight Magazine. This is a message for Miesha. Miesha, what are you doing to prepare for Marloes? She's actually a bigger fighter coming down from a higher weight class, heavier weight class. Are you changing your strategy at all?
I don't think it's really going to play too much into what happens that fight. I don't feel like come fight time we'll have that big of a weight difference. I've put on a little bit of weight myself, and I feel really, healthy and competitive at 135. And, granted, if I'm a little bit smaller, I think speed kind of kills, so smaller usually equals a little faster. And, if she has a really big weight cut, then again, that can play in also her performance the next day. So I guess we'll just have to see. I don't think it'll be too big of a deal.
All right. And Marloes, would you follow up on that? Are you doing anything different to train for Miesha?
No, I always work out the way I do it. I'm doing this for quite a while now, so I know how to do it. And what we do is that we train as always. For every opponent, we adjust small details. And I've learned from my last two fights, and I think I'm really ready to go now.
All right. Last question. Sorry, guys. I just want one more question for Dan. Dan, your last couple of fights, you've been very heavy with your right hand, and everybody knows that you're really winding it up. Is it the same game plan, or are we going to see a little bit something new, maybe some takedowns and a few things from Dan Henderson?
I think in most fights I tend to try and knock a guy out, but I don't forget about my wrestling also. So I'm not going to do that for this fight. I'm going to utilize my wrestling in the clinch and take him down if I need to. But I'm also looking forward to being able to stand and bang with him also.
All right. Thanks, guys. And good luck to everybody.
We'll take our next question from Stephen Lieberman with Culver City Observer. Please go ahead.
This question's for Fedor. It's the same question I asked Dan earlier about your past history and background. Were you always interested in fighting, even as a young boy growing up? And at what point in your life did you realize that you wanted to fight professionally?
Федор, это вопрос, который я уже Dan Hendersona спросил. Какая твоя история в спорте? Если ты знал, когда ты был молодой, да ты бы хотел драться как профессионал в ММА?
Не понял, сказал еще раз.
Какая твоя история, как ты дошел до момента, как ты хотел драться в профессиональном виде ММА и в молодости?
Я занимался самбо, борьбой самбо. И выступал на чемпионатах в России, на международном уровне. Позже вошел в сборную России и выступал на международном уровне также. Вот. И после этого перешел в РИ.
Well, I started off fighting in Sambo, and I became a champion in Russia in Sambo, and I fought in the Sambo championships and as an amateur in Sambo. And after that, the opportunities came up to fight in MMA as a professional, and I took that opportunity.
So at what point did he realize that he had a really special talent for the MMA or to be in the MMA?
В какой момент ты сообразил, да у тебя был удачный талант, чтобы выступать в спорте ММА?
Ну, у меня появилось желание просто бороться, а еще и боксировать, биться. Это произошло в 23 года. Вот когда я был в сборной страны по самбо.
Когда это было, сразу ты чувствовал, у тебя был хороший талант в этого спорта или после пару боев?
Да ничего не чувствовал, никакого таланта. Я просто проявил желание больше выступать по боям. Вот, и попробовал себе, вот, получилось, пошел в бои.
Well, I always had a desire to fight, and while I was fighting in the unpaid ranks, I just got an opportunity to fight professionally to make some money, and I never really felt that I had any special talent. I just tried it out. It seemed to be working. I kept winning and just kept going with it.
And last question. Thanks so much. Is this special talent in the ring and the MMA world? Is that something that he really had to develop, or is it mostly a God-given talent that he has?
Твой талант в ринге или в клетке, это талант, ты чувствуешь, что ты работал над этим талантом и тренировался и стал на уровне, который ты сейчас стоишь, или ты думаешь, да, это Бог помог, да у тебя есть такой талант?
Я не знаю, конечно, я тренировался, но и без Божьей помощи мне удавалось выступать так удачно. То есть, слава Богу, это Господь, наверное, вел меня этой дорогой. Вот. Ну, конечно, я сам тренировался очень много.
Well, of course, I trained a considerable amount, and I prepared and developed my strength and talents as much as I could. But certainly, I feel God has blessed me with the ability to be successful in what I do, and I believe that has a great deal to do with it as well.
Thank you so much.
And we'll take our next question from the side of Camilo Ortez with El Octagono. Please go ahead.
Yes, hi, my name is Camilo from El Octagono. I had two questions. One is for Fedor. Fedor, if you lose this fight, will you consider moving down in weight class? And if you do win, would you want to fight against Fabricio Verdum again, since he lost against Overeem?
Федор, два вопроса. Первый, если ты проиграешь этот бой, ты думаешь, что ты бы продолжал драться в низком весе, чем чаш? И второй вопрос, если ты выиграешь этот бой, если ты бы хотел опять драться с Fabricio Verdum, который недавно проиграл у Overeema, и делать матч-ревенж?
Я не думаю сейчас пока ни о том, ни о другом, ни о поражениях, ни о победах. У меня предстоит впереди бой. Вот. И настраиваюсь только на победу, конечно.
Чуть-чуть громче.
Вот. Что касается следующего, будет видно только после окончания этого. Вот отобьемся, и дальше будет видно.
Right now, I'm not thinking about any wins or losses, whether I'm going to win or lose, or I'm not thinking about any... Повтори?
Ты давай там не балуйся, и бабушку не обижай там. Слушайся. Ишь ты.
С кем ты говоришь, Фед?
Да, с дочкой.
Okay. Sorry, he was talking to his daughter. He said, right now, I'm not thinking about any particular opponents in the future, any wins or losses. I'm not thinking about what might be or who might be my opponent in the future. Right now, I'm just thinking about this fight, and after this fight, we'll sit down and figure out what the next move is.
Okay, and my other question was for Dan. Dan, if you do win this fight against Fedor, that's obviously a huge win against a legend in MMA. Will you try to defend your belt again in Strikeforce, or will you use this victory to try to go back into the UFC?
No, I have no plans on going anywhere. I'd like to defend that Strikeforce belt and go from there. So, but we got to figure everything out at the same time. So.
Okay, thank you so much.
Last fight on my contract.
And we'll take our next question from Mike Chapiapetta with AOL Sports. Please go ahead.
A question for Marloes, please. Marloes, in your last fight with Liz Carmouche, you did have some issues with takedowns. Given Miesha's skill set and that being a big part of her game, how big of a focus has that been for your camp in improving that defense?
Well, you can imagine that that has been a big part of my camp, but we also have been working on my ground game and my stand-up, and I've been sparring a lot with a lot of wrestlers too, so I hope it pays off next Saturday.
Okay, and a couple questions for Fedor. Fedor, after winning so many fights in a row over a 10-year span where you didn't lose, did losing 2 fights in a row impact your confidence at all?
Федор, вопрос. После того, что ты выиграл так много боев в течение 10 лет, факт, что ты проиграл 2 боев подряд, это как-то имело влияние на твою уверенность в себе?
Нет, абсолютно никак. Если Господь запускает такое испытание, значит, что надо пройти и двигаться дальше.
No, absolutely not. It hasn't affected my confidence at all. If God has given us a certain path for my life, then I have to go down that path and feel confident about it.
And in the past, we've heard Fedor at least sort of consider retirement after the last 2 losses. If he loses this fight and it's 3 losses in a row, will he retire?
Бывшим ты говорил, когда ты проиграл, да ты думал завязать спорт и закончить карьеру. Если ты проиграешь этот бой, это уже будет 3 поражения подряд. Ты думаешь, что ты уйдешь от спорта?
Не знаю, посмотрим. Все будет видно после боя.
I don't know. We'll see.
Поговорим об этом после боя.
Everything will be known after the fight. It's better to talk about that and answer that question after the fight.
Okay, thanks. And then one question for Dan. Dan, I think you mentioned at the tail end of your last answer, this is the last fight on your contract, right?
Correct.
That situation, does that change your approach at all? Maybe not so much in the fight, but just fighting for a contract is a little difficult situation when you're the champion as well, and in a high-profile fight like this. Does that change your approach, your mindset at all going into this?
No, not at all. I think regardless of whether it's the last fight or first fight on my contract, I'm always trying to go out there and be exciting and finish fights. So, and that's probably the thing that has gotten me paid more over the years, is just going out there and trying to finish a fight.
And with the changed landscape in MMA since you joined Strikeforce, is there any sort of trepidation about what awaits as a potential free agent there?
I guess it's a question mark that'll be answered, after this fight. I don't know what to expect, and but I feel like I've been around a long time and done enough in the sport to really, I'm not real worried about it. But we'll have to wait and see.
Okay. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it.
And we'll take our next question from the side of Neil Davidson with the Canadian Press. Please go ahead.
Thank you. My question is for Fedor. They always say that you learn more from your losses than from your wins. Can he tell us what he learned from his losses recently?
Федор, много говорят, человек учится больше от поражения, чем когда он выиграл бои. Ты можешь нам сказать, что ты выучил от последних 2 поражения? И что ты знаешь больше из этого?
Я знаю, что надо благодарить Бога за все. И за наши радости, и за наши скорби. Поэтому я вдвойне благодарен, что прошел вот именно эти поражения. Вот.
The one thing I've learned is that I know that I can thank God for both all of my successes and all of my failures and all of my good times and all of my bad times. And the one thing I've learned is that I'm thankful to Him for all that He's given to me, and those are the lessons that I've taken back.
Thank you.
And we'll take our...
Что говоришь? Я думаю, что пару минут.
And we'll take our next question from Penny Buffington with MMA Today. Please go ahead.
Hi, I wanted to ask a question for Fedor that actually got asked, so I'm going to push it further. You said that you want to talk about possible retirement after the fight. Is there any way we can get you to say right now that you plan to fight for years to come?
Федор, ты сказал, что ты не хочешь говорить, что будет в будущем, пока этот бой не будет, и только хочешь говорить об этом после боя. Есть возможность, да, ты как-то нам скажешь сейчас, да ты собираешься остаться в спорте еще пару лет?
Вот, ну, если Бог даст, то хотелось бы, конечно, побиться, а там видно будет. Как Бог даст. Я пока чувствую себя хорошо. Слава Богу. То есть здоровье у меня в порядке.
Well, if it's God's will, then I certainly can continue fighting for several years to come. I'd like to continue to fight, and thank God right now I feel great. My health is great, and I'm in good physical shape. But we'll see.
And Marloes, can you go into the yin and yang of being a title holder? On one hand, you're the title holder, and that's got to be the greatest feeling. And then on the other hand, someone's always going to come and try to take it out. So you have that pressure. Can you go into what that's like a little bit?
Well, the first time I became a champion was when I was 19 years old, and that was something that just happened to me. I didn't work for that. They invited me, and I became all of a sudden this world champion. And this time it took a decade before I could fight again for a title, and I fought against Cyborg, and I lost. And then Scott saw something in me, and he gave me a second chance to fight for another title in 1 year, and I won the title. And that was a title I really worked for, and I'm so happy I have that, and it's an accomplishment to me. And it's having a belt and trying to hold on to it and people chasing after your belt is just part of the game, and to me it makes it more exciting. So when I retain my title, it will be, every time I defend my title and I retain it, it will be more and more worth for me to, no, not worth, it will be more valuable for me. And the fact that Dana and the Sufa gave us the opportunity to fight on a co-main event is something I'm very grateful for.
And we'll take our next question from the side of Matt Jewell with Bleacher Report. Please go ahead.
Hi, yes. My question is for Fedor. How would you like to leave your legacy, win or lose, after this fight? And how do you envision people will look back on your career once it's all said and done?
Федор, как ты бы хотел оставить свою легенду после этого боя? И как ты бы хотел, да люди выглядели, смотрели на тебя, когда они говорят о тебя и твою карьеру как боец и как человек, а как ты бы хотел, да люди от тебя говорили?
Как они запомнили, да?
Как запомнили, да, как запомнили.
Как православного воина.
Скажите?
Как православного бойца.
Like
православного.
Like an Orthodox Christian fighter. That's how I'd like people to remember me.
Okay, great. And my second question is for Marloes. You've been fighting for over a decade now, and I was just wondering, what is your view on women's MMA after seeing it grow for such a long time?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the last part of your question.
Yes, you've been fighting for over a decade now, and I was just wondering what's your view of how women's MMA has evolved as you've been a part of the sport for so long.
Well, I started out fighting in Japan because the center of MMA was there, but I know for sure the center of MMA is now in the States. And it started out with Gina Carano, who really made a good effort to promote women's MMA. And then Scott picked it up and introduced 2 weight classes, and things evolved further. What I see in the technical department is that women have become more and more stronger, more technical. When I was fighting back in the days, we had open weight categories, and you could fight an opponent who was more than 50 pounds or even more heavier than you are. So it's now more professional, and the girls have become better and better. That's why I'm so happy that we're now a part of the Zuffa family, so we can showcase our skills on a really big for a really big audience.
All right, thank you very much.
Уже 10 часов, ничего, это самое, мне же надо это, в аэропорт.
Okay, if we can do a couple more questions for Fyodor. He's it's 10 p.m. in Russia right now, and he actually has to leave for the airport in the morning to fly to the U.S. So a couple more questions, please.
And it does appear we'll take our last question from Steven Morocco with MMAJunkie.com.
Последний вопрос.
Hey, Fedor, I wanted to seize on a term that Marloes just used. How does he feel fighting for a promotion that's in the Zuffa family?
Федор, как ты чувствуешь драться в компанию, которая сейчас член той же самой семьи Zuffa и который включает UFC?
Мне, в принципе, все равно драться. Лишь бы... Мне все равно драться, в какой организации драться. Вот. Главное, что зрители будут довольны.
Главное, что?
Что зрители будут вновь увидеть наше выступление.
It doesn't really matter to me. Продолжай. Okay. It doesn't really matter to me. The main thing is that the fans of the sport see both of us fight and see the best fighters fight.
And what weight does he plan on coming in at for this show? Is it pretty much what he's weighed most of his career, or does he plan to be lighter or heavier? What weight?
В каком весе ты собираешься драться в этом бою? Ты думаешь, ты будешь худее или тяжелее, чем обычные бои?
Я не знаю, но по комплекции сейчас я такой же, как и в прошлом бою, может быть, чуть похудее. Не знаю.
I'm not sure.
200 килограмм.
Что килограммы?
Я думаю, что буду весить около 100 килограмм.
Сколько килограммов?
Около 100.
Около 100. Okay. I'm not sure what I'm going to weigh in on the day of the weigh-in, but probably similar to what I've weighed before. maybe a little bit lighter. I've been training very well. My guess is probably around 100 kilograms.
And one last question, if I may. There was some initial talk about him dropping down to the light heavyweight division. Can he talk about his thoughts on that at the time and why he decided to stay where he is and what he usually weighs?
Был разговор, Федор, ты будешь ниже вес и может быть даже в ниже категории драться. Есть причина, чего ты решил остаться в том же самом весе и драться в весе, который ты дрался до этого?
Я дрался всегда в тяжелой весовой категории. Поэтому не было смысла переходить в более легкую. Никаких предложений не было. Я перешел в легкую весовую.
Well, I've always fought as a heavyweight, and I didn't see any reason to fight at a lighter weight. There haven't really been any significant offers to fight at light heavyweight, and so I fight at the same weight that I'm accustomed to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.